The Shogun's Minecraft Universe series was started out of a genuine passion I have for storytelling and science fiction. It started in September 2019 and ended in June 2024, taking almost 5 years to finish. The final product turned out not as good as I hoped, but I had a lot of fun creating it and I really cared for the story I was crafting. But why am I telling you all of this? Well, while on my quest to improve my story, I came across multiple film critics that I believed had the answers I was searching for, and at first, many did present solutions, such as Abby Emmons, who gave very detailed advice on what to do and what not to do in a story, and I highly recommend you check out her content, especially if you are a writer. However, I was especially interested in how a story can fail at conveying the intentions of the author, and I sought critiques and deconstructions of poorly told narratives. And that was when my descent into hell began. The month was July 2022. I was getting into critiques of Marvel's Phase 4 when I came across a certain YouTuber named Will Jordan, better known as the Critical Drinker, who also had a bunch of videos on the topic. Excited to see what he had to say, I eagerly clicked on the first video, and I was in. I didn't suspect what I was getting into. He critiqued what others did as well, like the sloppy writing of Thor: Love and Thunder, but he was also injecting a new kind of criticism, a more insidious kind.
It turns out that he's lost his passion for battle and adventure, so he quits the Guardians to go and find himself or whatever. How very millennial of him. Anyway, wouldn't you know it, he gets a distress call from Sif. You remember Sif, don't you?
Pathetic.
Yes, Will Jordan is a pathological liar, and a misogynist, which we will get into later. In his review of Thor: Love and Thunder, in which he completely spoils the plot to get the video over 8 minutes, I wonder why that is, he starts off with a blatant lie. He says that Thor has lost his passion for battle, and he leaves the Guardians to go find himself, when that is not at all what happens in the movie. And it's funny because he later explains, indirectly, the reason of his leaving. He says he gets a distress call from Sif, but what he fails to mention was that Thor was still with the Guardians at that time. He didn't leave them.
Who could have done something like this?
Oh, where are you?
Sif?
We need you here.
My friend is in danger. We must go at once.
So where is this lie coming from? Also, he's lost his passion for battle and adventure? Have we seen the same movie, Will? Yes, he seems to have lost his passion for all of this stuff. Look how unpassionate he looks in this. Also, you can see that the drinker is an expert at cutting scenes out of context. Here we see a scene from the TV show Loki, which I honestly consider to be the best Marvel TV show I have seen so far. And what does he do? He cuts the scene out of its context. What happens in this scene is that Loki is sent in a time loop by the TVA, and he is forced to relive the moment when Sif confronts him about him cutting her hair, an event from his past that hasn't really been mentioned so far, but knowing his character, he would 100% have done that. He is that type of god. And Will is routinely playing this video when Loki gets kicked in the nuts by her and punched in the face to signal the fact that Loki is being emasculated in this scene. What is it with right-wingers and their obsession with how men are being treated in media? Whenever a man gets confronted with the consequences of his actions, these guys get all in their feelings and are there like, whoa, how dare you show this scene? How dare you portray men as anything less than perfect and macho and saving the day, like back in my day, back in the 1980s. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. When have men stopped being the heroes in media? because I don't see it. In the very movie he is critiquing, both Thor and the Guardians, about half of which are male, roughly, are the heroes. And in the movie, Thor saves the day. Yes, he is aided by Jane and Valkyrie, but that doesn't mean he stopped being a hero. Just because the man shares the spotlight with a bunch of women doesn't mean he is all of a sudden less important. And this is what those movie critics fail to acknowledge. These chuds accuse women and minorities and people who don't agree with their political ideology that they are snowflakes and that they should acknowledge some sort of reality that people aren't interested in their work. But when someone dares to commit such a horrible crime against humanity, like race swapping a character, they go like, like, bro, you sound just like those goats. I am sorry, this is what I'm hearing when I hear all of you complaining about all of this. And it's especially obvious nowadays when you guys are complaining about Severus Snape in the new Harry Potter show being race swapped. Now, I also see it as a little strange that you would race swap someone this iconic, but this doesn't warrant sending your lunatic fans to send him death threats. This isn't a justification. And his race isn't even integral to the story that is being told. And then you motherfuckers go ahead and say that, actually, if Black Panther would be played by a European, you guys would become triggered. When these people fail to understand that black characters in media, well, some of them at least, especially the earlier ones, are written to be black. The story doesn't work otherwise. In the story, Black Panther doesn't work if he is a European, because he's the protector of Wakanda, an African sub-Saharan nation that is completely ethnically homogeneous, whereas white characters in general were seen as the norm back in the 1960s. Back when, in America, there were a lot of laws, such as redlining, that were barring black people from living in rich and wealthy neighborhoods that white people lived in. And due to this segregation, a lot of authors from back in the day, like Stan Lee, did not know about the existence of black people in America at such a wide scale as they were, because they didn't see them. Because in New York, at the time, there weren't that many black people. Because of course there weren't. Because they were barred from living in New York. They were being denied loans, they were denied housing, they weren't even allowed to live in the same areas as white people. And Stan Lee directly addressed this issue.
The thing is, normally when I would sit down to write about a superhero, I think of a normal American one, because I'm American and I'm surrounded by, in this country. But lately I've been thinking we've got to be more worldwide. So we're starting with the Chinese, Indian, Latino, and then we'll keep going.
They get all in their feelings and say,
This is not what the author intended. This is a bastardization of the art of filmmaking.
okay, then make your own art. Oh. Well, how about that? How about a bit of irony? Will Jordan routinely accuses Hollywood of being unable to write an effective script, but he is no better. And this applies to almost any anti-woke YouTuber out there, because these people despise so much that most art nowadays is progressive and is advocating for equality, a concept so toxic to those motherfuckers that they feel the need to call it out in almost every video that they make, calling it as some sort of attack upon the white man. And this is how the grifting machine works. Now, to be clear, I don't exactly disagree with everything that the Critical Drinker says. It can't be done because otherwise it wouldn't be a successful grift. He wouldn't be able to fool so many people, including myself, if he wasn't telling at least some true things once in a while. But that's the danger of it. It's the fact that the critical drinker and others like him tell a few facts, but then they inject them with political lies. You go from a half-truth, like the fact that Hollywood isn't necessarily at its greatest, and that is mostly due to capitalism and how movie tickets got much more expensive, and people aren't going out to see movies all that often because they can't afford it. And then they reach some sort of conclusion that this dearth in moviegoing isn't because of declining living conditions, but rather it's because these motherfuckers think so highly of themselves that they think they are the reason that moviegoers aren't moviegoing anymore. Either that or they are directly lying to the audience, which is just as bad because they have an absolutely detrimental effect on media literacy.
I also love how he strips Thor butt naked in front of the entire city, and it's just treated as a big old joke that we should laugh at. Because if this had happened to Valkyrie or CGI Natalie Portperson, it would have been treated as some horrifying traumatic experience that we should have been outraged about. Equality is a funny thing, isn't it?
Conservatives and things that were never implied or never happened. Name a better duo. What part of this movie suggests that if it were Jane or Valkyrie in Thor's place, it would have been treated as some sort of traumatic event? If anything, I believe it would have been treated as the same kind of joke because Zeus is an asshole in this movie. This is his characterization. You are complaining about an asshole character being characterized as an asshole. Make it make sense. And you are extrapolating this to the real world, complaining that if it were a woman that would have happened to, then the audience would have had to react a different way. This wasn't a moment for the audience to laugh at. It was a moment to characterize Zeus as being an asshole. But anyways, that's enough of this specific video from the Critical Drinker. He has a lot more reviews of movies on his channel, and a lot of them are filled with lies and misinformation regarding movies to make them look worse than they really are. But that's exactly the problem, because to the people that haven't seen those movies, or they haven't been paying close enough attention and aren't bothering to watch again, they can be very easily persuaded by those lies, and they can be brainwashed into believing that this stuff actually happened because, well, they already kind of wanted to dislike this movie because of superhero fatigue, or because it was made by Disney, a company that they disagree with politically. Jumping forward to the middle of 2023, I had already gone down a significant portion of the pipeline. I was already absorbed by political pundits like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh. I was already in. I believed wholeheartedly what those people were saying. I was making up my mind on movies that even if I liked initially, then I would stop liking them because, well, my favorite anti-woke YouTuber said so. Which is a very damaging mindset to have, especially when we're talking about movies, which are, at the end of the day, mostly subjective. The vast majority of movies out there can be either loved or hated, and it would be completely valid to do so if it wasn't based off of manipulation, and if said person actually watched the movie, which a lot of the audiences of grifters do not. A lot of the grifters encourage them not to watch it, and nowadays, the mask is starting to come off, now that the policies of America are allowing racism and bigotry at large to have a comeback. Those grifters have kind of dropped the whole movie reviewer facade and have delved deep into the politics of the situation. They are now going after the actors themselves, no longer hiding behind, oh, well, it's just bad writing. I don't hate those actresses that are playing, I just hate what they are in because of bad writing. But nowadays, they are outright attacking the actresses themselves. Just look at what they're saying about Rachel Zegler, or Brie Larson, or Daisy Ridley, because this is their job. This is how they make money off of YouTube. They gauge how a certain audience would feel about a movie that is coming out, and they are attempting to make it so much worse in order to rake in engagement and clicks, which translate into money. I would know, because I am a YouTuber myself. I am just now getting into the whole market of being a YouTuber that is getting paid, hopefully at some point. And I understand that this is their goal, to make a profit from this platform, but there is such a thing as ethical ways to make a profit. Now I know it is not the best time, economically speaking, due to your overlord making some very questionable decisions, both internally and on the world stage. I understand that the money is pretty tight and the prices are going nowhere but up, but that should not be an excuse to be a bigoted, lying, grifting piece of shit on YouTube and on other platforms. And I am here to provide the antithesis to that. Now, I don't want to say that I am the most integral person out there. I'm not this paragon of virtue or justice who is gonna punch the Nazis in the face and make those grifters regret that they have done this. I'm not some sort of superhero or harbinger of change, but at the same time, neither are they. They aren't superheroes either. They aren't fighting against some sort of conspiracy to replace the straight white man in media. And I am here to provide the perspective of someone who used to believe in their lies and deconstruct them now that I have woken up. That being said, I still won't refrain from punching Nazis in the face should they threaten anyone that is close to me and that I hold dear. But that is besides the point. That is more of a self-defense maneuver. What I'm trying to say with this overly long and pedantic video is that regardless of what those grifters may have you think, they do not want to bring any sort of positive change to the entertainment landscape. Far from it. Their goal is to capitalize off of the absolute wave of hatred towards people who are not like them, and then rake in the engagement of hateful bigots to get copiously rich off of rage. And I understand that better than most people, because I fell for it myself. I too was a hateful bigot, but I snapped out of it. But I am one of the lucky ones. Not everyone is that lucky, and I am here to hopefully make a difference. I refuse to let those grifters run their game, and I will be here, standing in their way, and at least hoping to make some of you understand that these are not people that you should support, neither by viewing their videos, or by purchasing their comic books, or by purchasing anything that they sell to you. Because this is only going to empower them in this never-ending culture war, and maybe in the future even real war. But that is a topic for another time. And unfortunately, many of those media grifters are only a variation of the many forms of far-right grifting that can take place, both online and in real life, which has devastating consequences. Just look at what happened a few years back with the whole anti-vaccine skepticism, also planted by online grifters, and also real-life grifters. If we let these means of disinformation to run rampant on the internet and in our society at large, then maybe in a few years it will be way too late for all of us. And we will come to a point where a lot of people who have hoarded power and influence will start telling us what to do and what to believe, and we will have no choice but to believe it. And I do not want to live in a world like this. And I am willing to bet that neither are you. This is not a call to war. This is a call to resist against people who are hoarding power, against people who are trying to get even more wealthy than they already are. And even if we somehow manage to drive some of those grifters out of the media space, as they deserve to be, we cannot stop there. Because cutting off the head of this hateful movement does nothing. It only puts a stamp on the bigger issue. The solution needs to be systemic. We need, as a society, to be much more aware of the people that are influencing us. We need to keep them in check and to prevent them from becoming too powerful and too influent. I do not, for the life of me, want to see any more demigods being built up on social media, but also in real life, because this is how you end up in a fascist, militaristic, authoritarian state. And I will do everything that is up to me. I will do my part to stop that from happening. I do not have power. I do not have influence. I am not delusional. I am not self-destructive. However, I know that I can play at least a very small part in preventing this, and I am willing to see it through for the sake of everyone that I love.